So the past couple episodes of Movie Tales have had some semblance of a theme to them. 50s bug movies, big bugs, people of bugs, bug people, big bugs. Let's round it out with Tarantula. What if there was a big tarantula? Look, we talked about a couple of these very recently. Them Had Big Ants, a movie that blew me away and I'm obsessed with. The Wasp Woman, I liked it. I did not like this one. Tarantula, out of all of these insects of the 50s that we've talked about, is so boring. It's so lame. I just did not respond to it. And I watched this primarily because it was on the same block as The Wasp Woman. TCM was doing a bug thing. I put them on my PVR and I'm like, I'll come back to it. And watching this one, I'm glad I saved it for last because it really would have tainted my feeling about the rest of them. I just didn't respond to it. It's essentially like the rest of the ones we've talked about, you know? But everyone's just more boring. The actual, like, use of the spider isn't as compelling. I get what they're doing here. The one credit I'll give to this movie, and it deserves the credit, is the actual, like, use of framing for the bug, the use of scale, where we are kind of just, like, filming a spider and projecting that version of a spider into sets and backgrounds to make it look big. That's pretty cool. There are issues with the shadowing and stuff, and sometimes it looks a little blurry. I don't care. You're doing something that is hard to do now, harder to do back then, so you're getting it about as right as you could. That looks really great. And this movie's called Tarantula, and it's not really Tarantula movie until about the last 20 minutes, where it's like, no, now there's a tarantula. The rest of it's really boring. And it's essentially the same setup as Them, which is way better. You know, it's like, okay, there's a thing happening and people don't know what it is. I just like all these people less. They don't feel interesting. And none of them really matter. You have the doctor. You have the doctor who's like a cool guy. Everyone in the small town knows him. He's like buddy-buddy with the sheriff. And the sheriff's like an older man who's like, yeah, this all sucks. I don't know what to do. You're a bad doctor. You misdiagnosed a guy. You're useless. I hate you. But come help me do this thing. You have the reporter who's like, what if he had like the big scoop to get? You have the coroner. What if there's a guy who looked at the dead bodies? And then you have like townspeople who are just normal, and then there's like gun people. But there's also a professor, an old man who studies biology, and he's been working on this like miracle cure to help people, which isn't that always the downfall of society, looking to better ourselves and help ourselves. And he injects this serum into his partner, and his partner starts to like find growth on their skin in a very chaotic and destructive way. This eventually leads to the person being potentially killed. We take their body to the coroner. They're not actually dead, though. They come back to kill the professor. And the professor kills them, injects them with more of the weird serum, and then the professor injects himself. And that looks better than the actual spider stuff, in my opinion. Like, there's a couple of cool moments with, like, the spider, like, POV shots where we're watching it, like, attack a person. We see, like, the fangs hanging down. That's cooler. Just a normal tarantula, like, walking in a cage, it's not that interesting. And it's the perspective stuff that really works. Like, this is a big gerbil. This is a big guinea pig. That all looks really cool. But I don't care. You know, it's like, it's not that interesting. Coming off the past two we've talked about, you know, the bomb testing made the ants and this woman just wants to live forever. This one's just a mad scientist who wants to help the world for some reason, to be stronger. I don't know. It is kind of cool that the spider does continue to grow throughout each, you know, time we see it. It starts off just kind of big, then it gets 100 times bigger, then it crushes a house, which is a cool sequence. It's very much of like, we have a set and we're just going to shake it a bit and then crumble a big like freestanding building at the end. It looks fine. I have no issue with that. But none of these people really feel interesting. None of them are that compelling. You're not really rooting for any of them. You know, the doctor is just so flirty. He's like a cool guy, and like the guy that works at the hospital with him's like, you young people just don't get it. And you're like, okay, they don't, do they? But they're just so lame. And it's only when like the woman shows up, because, oh my God, guys, there's a woman in here. And she's the most tolerable person out of all of them because she doesn't know. Like, this is just a town run with like guys that know each other, and she shows up to like intern with the professor's assistant who died, and she stays to help out, and a tarantula attacks. I wish I liked this more. I really do. Because it has all the makings of something that works for me. You know, there is like the weird pseudo-chemistry between the two leads. There's just the building tension of just, what are we building to? What is this going to look like? And where I think the building tension works better in things like Them is because we know what this is. Like, they're going to make a big ant, right? We're eventually going to see that big ant. But I know what like a real spider looks like. So when you just show me like the projection of a spider on the background of like a mountain or walking on the side of the road, I'm not that impressed by it. Or I'm not like, man, this is really cool. Maybe if I was like a child in the 50s, I'd think that, but I just didn't. Again, like the actual practical stuff of like the specific legs we use or the fangs, that looks more exciting. Or just like, let's go to this farm and look at a spider that just drank all of like the skin off of this cow, and there's just like a pile of bones and nobody knows what's going on because God forbid a spider is big. Nobody would guess that. And that's something I like about this movie slightly, is that everyone's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I am a medical scientist. I have seen some shit because I'm a sheriff. I can't explain what any of this is. Infuriating. Like, what is any of this going to be, you know? I get that, and that's kind of cool. But it's just a doctor being kooky, and I just didn't really like that doctor being kooky. Not the best use of a doctor being kooky. Like, it's a short film, 80 minutes in and out. That works really well because we don't spend a lot of time with the spider because it's kind of hard to do that protection stuff. But the guinea pig did look better when we saw the guinea pig. I think the rabbit looked better when we saw the rabbit. And they do kind of like solve the crisis pretty quick when it comes to fighting off the spider, which I guess, like, we spent enough time building it up where it crushes a house and it kills the professor. But really, we just blow it up. That's it. Like, we just get some dynamite and, let it blow up. And then that doesn't work perfectly, so the Air Force has to come in and drop some bombs on it. And I guess that's a good use of the Air Force, but it never feels like a real town. It never feels like real characters. It is actors who are doing good, and look, they look like they're from the 50s, and the writing isn't strong, but it does sound accurate to what might happen there. The entire time you were just feeling the mechanics of the thing going through the motions, and it does affect your enjoyment. Like, the spider stuff, it's kind of cool. Like, it's a tarantula, and that's exciting. Because something you forget about, too, and just being, like, from the internet generation, I have access to everything all the time. Maybe if you're, like, a young person in the 50s, where are you going to see, like, an actual tarantula moving, you know? You can read about it in books, maybe go to, like a museum or something, but to see, like, a tarantula actually move and be terrifying, that might mean something to some kids back then. I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe that was like an outing. You're like, I can't believe it. I've loved like this bug for so long, and now I get to see it like attack people and kill them. Maybe that was exciting. But for somebody of my generation who has loved a lot of these movies, I love this genre of film. Tarantula just didn't stick the landing for me. I wasn't impressed with it. I felt myself being like, yeah, I know what's coming. Can we just get to the thing that's coming? I don't need all this preamble of the doctor misdiagnosing the guy. I don't need all this preamble of like, maybe the medicine's not working. Maybe it is. We spend a lot of time. Stevie is the female character, and I do think it does kind of fall into some cliches where she gets trapped in like her nightgown and she has to escape the house and then be saved by the big strong men. But that's also of the time, so I don't hate that. I just don't like it too much. We don't go anywhere, and that's kind of boring, but we defeat it because military strong, and it's just a spider. Just a spider. Didn't like it too much. Not much going on here for me to talk about that was interesting. So that is Tarantula. Thank you all for watching this episode of Horrific Tales. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.